joining us via our Facebook Live page and our YouTube channel. Welcome to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, located in beautiful Monterey, California. And I say that with joy because I was excited to get back to the cooler weather of Monterey, having been on retreat and temperatures in the high 90s up to 100. And while it was a different kind of heat and I enjoyed it, I was also looking forward to being back to the cooler and milder temperatures of the Monterey Bay. Welcome to August as we begin our theme for the month, Unstatus Quo. We will embark on a significant and engaging topic on the spiritual journey, beginning with our talk today that focuses on the impact of othering. And I begin with this quote from Ernest Holmes that he wrote in Words That Heal Today on page 113. The song of hate must be laid down if we are to sing a hymn of praise. We must let go of any sense of separation from good if we are to become conscious of our union with God. And as I shared earlier with our community here in the center, extending my gratitude for those who showed up and supported our staff ministers, Reverend Cindy and Reverend Tony, while I was away on retreat. My retreat took me to Gubbio, Italy, which is south of Florence, and had a wonderful time on retreat. There were 19 participants, so it was a perfect sized group for interaction as well as personal space. And of course, we had all of the space that we needed because the retreat center includes over 400 acres that has been in the family for over 100 years. So it was a nice setting. It reminded me a lot of the California coast with the hills and the valleys. And then I spent some time playing tourist and spending money and having fun in Florence. I was cautious with the money, I do say that. I saw this post on social media when I returned, and it said, and I just have to share it with you, and it says, vacation calories don't count. And of course, if you go to Italy, which is known for its food, those vacation calories can creep up on you. And it goes on to say, those vacation calories belong to another country. So eat to your heart's content, drop the calories at the airport, a lot easier said than done, and then return home happy. Surprisingly, when I returned home, I weighed less than I did before the trip, which was good news for me because it's getting me closer to the weight goal that I have established for myself. And I attribute it to the quality of the food because at the retreat center, all of the meals were plant-based and a lot of the vegetables were actually grown there on the site. So we had fresh, organic vegetables and fruits and an amazing kitchen staff that just surprised us every day with 3 real hearty meals. And as I'm looking at all of this food, I go, I need to reduce the size of the plate that I'm getting. I can still fill the plate, but it's a smaller space that I'm filling. So that was part of the fun. Our theme for this month of August is Unstatus Quo. We have come to expect a status quo in our spiritual communities. We tend to know what to wear, who we will see, what the topic will be, when the music and the treatment will happen. Everything has a certain routine and a certain flow to it. However, when we operate only in the status quo, we miss out on so much of the beauty and growth that happens when we move outside of our, quote, normal, unquote, and step into the beyond. Outside of the status quo is a rich community with a variety of topics, ideas, and things that we often stuff down because it would be inappropriate for a spiritual setting. What we forget is that when we have these taboo topics in spiritual community, we isolate those for whom the topics are at the forefront of their lives. So when we create this bubble, this little status quo, while it's nice to assemble with like-minded people, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, what we're doing unconsciously is isolating the people that we say really need to hear this message. We say they need to hear it, but what are we doing to invite them in, to include them, to have them feel welcome as part of our lives? To experience a grand rising in our lives, we must be willing to embrace the wholeness of humanity, including those things we would rather ignore, especially in spiritual community. And I love this statement: oneness equals wholeness, and therefore no topic is taboo. Oneness equals wholeness, and therefore no topic is taboo. When we focus on our topic today, the impact of othering, which is a core value for me and really dear to my heart. You've heard me speak on this topic before, and today we'll take a little bit deeper dive into othering. As spiritual communities, we have a unique opportunity to be radically inclusive and welcoming by openly discussing these unstatus quo topics, such as racism, homophobia, transphobia, poverty, incarceration, homelessness, mental illness, neurodiversity, politics, yes, even politics, disability, fat shaming, food insecurity, and more, that encompasses the authentic human experience that is calling for inclusion at the table. This is a long list, and it's not a complete list of those things that get put into the category of unstatus quo. When we seriously invite those who are directly impacted by any of these experiences to join us, it becomes our unique opportunity to apply the principles of science of mind. And the aim in applying the principles of science of mind is to uplift and support each individual to live their authentic lives. Oneness is not sameness. In the area of diversity, and I've talked about this before, there's this misconception that diversity, yes, I include someone who is different from me by whatever definition I use of different. I include them as long as they adjust to my point of view, my perspective, my way of showing up. That's not how it works. Diversity is welcoming the gifts that each one of us brings into our community and into our gathering. Ernest Holmes offers this in his book, A New Design for Living, on page 194, paragraph 3. And he writes, in mind. And what he's referring to is what is often called big mind, or this creative intelligence, or the mind of God. In mind, there is no time, no space, no place. There is only wholeness, oneness, and eternity. And so embodying and practicing the principles of science of mind, we recognize that the fundamental belief in the oneness of all naturally challenges the human tendency to other individuals and groups. It encourages a shift in perception towards recognizing all people's inherent unity and equality, inviting us to approach those that we would define as other with love, compassion, empathy, and respect. From this perspective, othering becomes even more incongruent with our science of mind principles and beliefs, since it denies the underlying spiritual interconnectedness that transcends the boundaries of individual identities. I want to invite us to take a look at 4 aspects of othering this morning. The first one is, what is othering? The second one is, why do we other? The third is oneness as wholeness. And the fourth is overcoming othering. And I'm only touching the tops of the treetops, if you will, with this discussion because each one could turn into a 10-week class. Let's begin with othering. What is othering? Othering is a social phenomena, a cognitive process in which individuals or groups are viewed, treated, or perceived as fundamentally different, separate, or alien from oneself or one's group. It's part of the status quo. Those others belong over there. They belong on the other side of the tracks. That's why we have an other side to the tracks. Othering involves creating a us versus them scenario, a dichotomy establishing a sense of superiority or inferiority based on perceived differences. And we all engage in it. We all engage in it, some at a more conscious level and some at an unconscious level. The act of othering often stems from the human tendency to categorize and try to make sense of the world. It is an entirely natural part of being human. It's an entirely natural part of being human. And therefore, it is important to not make ourselves or our communities wrong for doing it. This is a time where we become aware of what it is that we're doing. Nigerian-American writer Ijeoma Olu says this in So You Want to Talk About Race. You have to get over the fear of facing the worst in yourself. You should instead fear unexamined racism. Fear the thought that right now, you and I could be contributing to the oppression of others, and we don't know it. But do not fear those who bring that oppression to light. Do not fear the opportunity to do better. So it's a call to move beyond ourselves, to move out of our little bubble of status quo and just open the window. You don't have to raise the shade all of the way. I'm reminded of, and I'm probably going to date myself, I'm sure you've heard this story of the Polaroid film that develops slowly. This is how life works for us sometimes. That image develops slowly. It starts around the corners, and then it begins to fill in, and we see a nice, clear, full image. Our duty is to recognize the impact of othering that it has on our centers and organizations and actively work to counter our very human predisposition towards othering. And so you may ask, why do we other? In addition to the human tendency to categorize and label our surroundings, othering also arises from a deeper psychological and sociological factors. It often serves as a defense mechanism to protect our identity and maintain security, i.e. the status quo. We all want to feel safe where we are in our surroundings and with the people that are around us. When we perceive others as fundamentally different or alien, we reinforce the group defense mechanisms to distance ourselves from potential threats or challenges to our beliefs and values. We like to think we control ourselves, our lives, and our surroundings. Newsflash, we don't. We only can control ourselves, nothing else, and that is a full-time job. In New Thought, seeing the challenges that others go through can be a very scary experience. And I want to share with you briefly an exercise that we engaged in at the retreat that I was on. It was called the River of Life exercise. Some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you may have even participated in it. The essence of the exercise is to start from an earliest point of memory from childhood, and then to see your life as a river, and then to draw that river and include all of the twists and turns and the detours and the tributaries that go off from the river and feed back into it, or those tributaries that go off and go into a different direction. We each had an opportunity to share our river of life experience, and I'll tell you, that was really eye-opening, because there's nothing that breaks down assumptions faster than listening with an open ear, with an open heart, with an open mind to someone who is vulnerable enough to share their life story with a group of strangers. And there were 19 of us that did this. Some people in the group knew one another through various connections, but for the majority of us, it was our first time coming together in this configuration. And so seeing another's challenges causes us to question our own control or lack thereof, and the possibility of something happening that we don't want or we don't like. At its heart, othering is rooted in fear, fear of the unknown, fear of being wrong, fear of being out of control, and the fear of those who are different from us. You see how fear operates. So now let's look for a moment at oneness as wholeness. Othering has widespread detrimental effects on the individuals and centers within our Science of Mind communities. It perpetuates social divisions, discrimination, and marginalization. Now, I may be touching on a nerve here, because we tend to think in New Thought that we have elevated ourselves in consciousness above those other things. But if you think about it, our centers, and sometimes we pride ourselves in saying that we are surrounded by like-minded people. Yes, being around like-minded people creates a safety net for us that is important for our survival. However, being around just like-minded people can lead to prejudice, bias, and exclusion, limiting our empathy and understanding between diverse groups. So here's an opportunity to expand, to include those who are like us, and to also include those who we perceive as different from us, and to listen with a compassionate ear, to create that safe space for others to share their story of their life journey, and to see where we have shared experiences. And it's those shared experiences that close those gaps that tend to separate us. So overcoming otherness requires conscious awareness, empathy, and the willingness to challenge and question our individual biases and assumptions. It involves recognizing the shared humanity and interconnectedness among all individuals, including our differences. Promoting inclusivity, diversity, and teaching of oneness that is based on the idea of wholeness, all experiences being divine aspects of God, not just the ones that we label as good. All of these are essential in countering the harmful effects of othering. So in summing this up this morning, in our spiritual communities, we express the ideas of oneness, radical welcoming, and inclusion. We express these. We talk about them. We write about it in our media. We promote it on our social pages. You know, come ye, come all, come ye, come all. However, let us be mindful that when we allow our unconscious bias, our inclination toward othering, and subconscious fear to dictate our actions and move us away from becoming the beloved community, this is where we have to say, stop it. It's time to let go of that unconscious bias. First of all, it's time to recognize that the unconscious bias is there, and then make the choice. We're always at choice. We make the choice to extend to someone we perceive as different, to invite them in, or we can choose to maintain the status quo. I'm for choosing the unstatus quo. To overcome this inherent tendency, it is crucial that we go beyond mere spiritual practice and take proactive steps in self-reflection and community examination. Sarah Schumann offers this quote from the book, Conflict is Not Abuse, Overstating Harm, Community Responsibility, and the Duty of Repair. And Sarah writes this: nothing disrupts dehumanization more quickly than inviting someone over, looking into their eyes, hearing their voice, and listening. And this is what we all desire at a basic level, is to be seen, to be recognized, to be heard, to be respected, and to be loved. And the way we receive that is by giving it. We live in a reciprocal universe, so what we put out comes back to us. So let's be mindful of what it is that we put out. And I offer this to our community as a call to action. Transcending othering requires more than just theoretical discussions of science mind principles. As spiritual beings, we are called to shed light on all aspects of our human experience, especially the ones that we may prefer to avoid, in order to transcend othering and create an environment of inclusivity where everyone feels welcomed. And so to accomplish this, again, we must be willing to examine ourselves, our beliefs, and our community honestly. And so in our individual, right here in our Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, in our welcoming and inclusive and loving community, are we willing to create an inclusive community for all individuals and move beyond words by our actions, by re-examining and maybe redefining our physical space and our offerings? And so I have a few concrete examples that I want to leave with you this morning. Imagine, if you will, an older, cisgender, heterosexual white man wearing a MAGA hat and a Trump t-shirt. What would our response be to someone walking in our door? What would our response be to a non-binary pansexual student on government assistance in a wheelchair? Is our facility wheelchair accessible and wheelchair welcoming? We can make the accommodation. What if an undocumented immigrant worker who sends the majority of their paycheck home to their family in another country walks in through our doors? What if an unhoused woman with mental health challenges and drug addiction walked in through our doors? What if a Hispanic family with the parents who only speak English walk in through our doors? What if a young Black man who keeps to himself, doesn't want to be touched, and struggles with engagement walked in through our doors? What would our response be? I invite you to, beginning today, assess the ways in which we may shift our culture, as well as our physical space, to be truly a welcoming community. There's an expression in Science of Mind that says, if you build it, they will come. So if we create, if we're willing to bite the bullet, if you will, and create in consciousness, it all begins in mind. If we're willing to create in consciousness a truly welcoming and inclusive community, let's get ready, because they're waiting to join us. And are we willing to welcome them with open arms? And again, I end with this quote: oneness equals wholeness, and therefore no topic, and I add no one, is taboo in our spiritual communities. I have an affirmation that I invite us to say together as we post it on our screen for sharing. My real self is identical to the ultimate energy of which all things in the universe are a manifestation. Let us say that again. My real self is identical to the ultimate energy of which all things in the universe are a manifestation. I invite us now to join together in prayer. As we go within to that place where we know that there is only life, there is only this one mind, this infinite intelligence that creates all things out of itself and is not absorbed by its creation. It is the manifest universe, the body of God, that life which is everlasting and eternal. How good it is to be in spiritual community, how good it is to be together with people of faith, how good it is to be together with those who are viewing or listening to this particular message via social media, via electronic means. How good it is to know that everyone is welcome into the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, virtually as well as in person. How good it is to know that we are all one with God, created in the image and likeness of this manifestation of peace and joy and harmony and happiness and love. And most of all, an expression of itself. When I look into the eyes of another, I see the eyes of spirit being reflected back to me. And so I look with the eyes of love. I look with the eyes of compassion. I look with the eyes of grace. And it is through grace that the call to be something higher, the call to be something bigger, resonates. And we move into a place of action, knowing that all is well and that everything, absolutely everything, is working for the highest and the best good of everyone exactly where they are. This is how God works. I speak my word of blessing this morning for communities where individuals are gathering in the name and nature of oneness and wholeness, recognizing that there are many paths, there are many names, there are many directions that we approach this idea of oneness, this idea of divine mind, this idea of creative intelligence, however it is that we refer to it. And yet all paths ultimately lead to home, that place which is the source of all that there is. For those in our communities, those in our families, those in our lives who are experiencing life transitions, especially those who have stepped off the mortal plane into their greater yet to be, knowing that their physical absence is only a dimension of their presence. Because each time we call their name, each time we think of them, each time we feel their essence and feel their presence, they live on in our memories. Those who are experiencing transitions in all other areas of life, transitions in right housing choices, transitions in right livelihood, right employment, right businesses, knowing that everything, absolutely everything that is required to be successful and to be authentic is available. And so we tap into that resource within that says, I am the I am. And therefore, everything that is required emerges from within, from the divine mind that is within each and every one of us. And for this and for so much more, I am eternally grateful, releasing this word back into that law which always says yes. I know it is done. I know it is complete. And I invite you to affirm this with me as we say, and so it is. in 7 years. Again, thank you for showing up and showing out. That's all I can say. We like to show up and show out. That's the beauty of being in spiritual community. And we embrace all who come into our community. And one of the ways that we share and get this message out is through the programs that we offer, through our social media, through our Zoom, through our classes, through our other offerings. And of course, we need that divine resource known as money to fulfill those commitments to our calling to expand. And so we have an affirmation of abundance that I invite us to say together now. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the uninterrupted flow of abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so there are ways to donate to the center, and we have those posted on our screen, and the greeter will pass the offering basket here in the center. And so we thank you for your contributions and your donations that are the life of this spiritual community. We appreciate you, we love you, and we thank God for you. And while the offering is being passed, there is something that I would like to highlight for our community at large, for our Facebook community and for our in-house community. And I believe Reverend Cindy introduced this on the Sunday that she spoke. This is a program that is being sponsored by the Center for Spiritual Living Atlanta and our entire CSL communities, as well as other New Thought individuals, are participating in it. And it is My Election Intention, 100 Days of Mindful Practice. And the kickoff was on July 28th, and it's the 100 days leading up to the election. So from July 28th to November 4th, you may participate in this by texting the word JOIN to 470-784-0250. And you will be placed on the distribution to receive a voicemail affirmation, a voicemail uplifting statement. And this is a somatic experience, so these statements will repeat every 10 days. And so it is not too late to sign up. And I invite you to go to their website, myelectionintention.com, to get more information and to sign up. I really encourage you to sign up. I signed up for it, and they had a few technical glitches the first couple of days, so we didn't get the voicemail messages, but the voicemail is now activated, and I'm receiving the messages, and they are truly inspiring. So I invite you to participate in this. You know, we talk about being that place where God shows up, and we talk about peace in the world. Let's talk about peace and harmony within our own spiritual communities, because we can change the consciousness of the entire planet. We have the ability to do that. Believe it or not, we can change the consciousness of the entire planet. And this is one of the ways to engage as a body, especially here in the United States, to shift the consciousness and to be in that place of mindfulness for our own upliftment and to make conscious choice and conscious decisions when we go to the polls and vote. This is not about telling you how to vote, who to vote for. It's about upleveling our consciousness and making conscious choices based on the information that is available and based on what it is we desire to have in a world that works for everyone. And so thank you for engaging in that. And now I invite our our virtual community, those in Facebook and those who are viewing via our YouTube channel, to join us next week as we continue our August series. And the talk is Trauma 101. We invite you to like, to share, to comment, and on YouTube, as some of my YouTube friends will say, strike that bell so that you're notified when the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living airs its programs. It is through your support that we continue to expand this message of unconditional love, inclusion, and affirming each other together. And so we say good morning, and we'll see you the next time.